Obviously, two of the elite scorers in the game, and they do it that way, heavy isolation. And so obviously the way we defend at times, they're gonna have those opportunities. And two of the tough ones that we saw in the game here when they both played and late in the season. That's what they're all about. And we have our high-level defenders. They got elite scorers, and so that'll be the challenge.
To that end, Bruce Brown was sort of surmising last night that without Rob, you guys are easier to attack in the paint. Just what's your view of that?
We still have two high-level defenders back there, big guys with Daniel and Al. And, we have layers to our defense, so it's not like we're getting blown by and Rob is protecting. We still have Marcus, Jaylen, Jason, and everybody else in between. So we know how he scores and how he attacks in a lot of drop situations. Well, we can take that away by how we want to guard. And so, they think it's attack time because Rob's out. Obviously, we played quite a few games without him now and have done good enough beating some good teams.
First, where are things at with Rob? Like, what's he able to do now in his recovery?
A little bit more every day. He's looking good and in good spirits, like I've said from day one. Just attacking the rehab process and getting out on the court, doing some shooting drills and touch work there. And so, we're happy with the progress, but at the same time, we understand it's going to take time. And we, like I mentioned, probably be a full series without him. That's what we're looking at doing. So. Our team is supporting him. He's in the gym, but at the same time, we're worrying about the guys we have and who is available, and we'll cross that path when it comes.
And for weeks, it felt like we were asking about seeding and matchups and all that stuff. Like, how does it feel to have that set? And now, how do you kind of approach this week in terms of locking in on one opponent and game planning and all that?
Yeah, it was even before the game last night. We knew we could focus in on these two opponents, and obviously seeing it last night, we had both situations ready, and we're working on those. But a team we've seen quite a bit, late in the season, albeit without their main team for two of those games. And so it's great to sit and focus on it. And today, get into the personnel and talk about things we want to do and introduce a little bit more every day. But this week with the playing games affords us the opportunity to really dig in and lock in on that. But it's a team and a organization that we know well, and obviously playing them last year in the playoffs, a little bit different as far as overall personnel, but the head of the snake are those two guys. And so we know them well, and we'll have a chance to prepare and look at all the different things that we did well against them so far this year.
When you look at any notes that you took last year for the series against the Celtics, will you use that? I mean, obviously the experience and all that, but is there anything on paper that you'll look at that how do you think they'll attack Tatum? Obviously, there's no Jaylen in the series. So, I mean, how will that help at all?
Well, it's very different as far as that, and what we do defensively is different. They've mixed it up quite a few times this year, depending on who's available for them, guys in and out of lineup. So, although the main players are similar, the styles are different, and who we have obviously is different, and the way we're guarding is different. So, there's some things you can take away from the series just personnel-wise, but schematically, the way we're doing things, them as well, are different from last year.
Do you feel like your team is, I don't say an underdog, but so much Brooklyn's been one of the bigger teams talked about all year because of all their issues and situations, and now the team everyone wanted to avoid in the first round, and you guys kind of took them on. I mean, you kind of asked for this. Is that something that you kind of relish the challenge and also think that you might be kind of an underdog in this series?
I wouldn't say we have an underdog mentality going into it. We know who we are and who we've been over the last few months. Overall, number one team in a lot of categories, offensively, defensively. So the focus toward the end of the season was health and worrying about ourselves more than the opponent. And that's how we approached it. And so while teams were doing what they were doing, we were continuing to play well and, rest guys when we can, but at the same time, get a run in like we did against Memphis. So, we weren't running from anybody. We were worried about ourselves from the whole time, and to each its own, the way certain teams attack it. But in order to win, you have to win against really good teams at some point. So that's our approach to it.
How do you prepare for the potential Ben Simmons could return in this series? With no film of him with this team, really no film of him all year playing in the league this year.
It'd be hard to emulate that with him being with Brooklyn because we haven't seen him used with them. Obviously, I coached him 2 years ago, and a lot of guys have played with or against him, so we know what he is. Obviously being off for a year, it's going to be some rust there and some unpredictability as far as how they'll implement him with their team. But we know his game, we know what he does, and unless something's happened in the last year, we know how to attack him and manipulate certain things as far as that. But it's tough because he hasn't played with that team, so who knows how he'll be used with them.
Going back to the whole over here, just not running from Brooklyn, the whole standings thing, was it an important thing for you to just tell the team that like we're going to be uber confident in ourselves no matter what? It doesn't really matter what we're facing. And do you see that reflected in just the way they're practicing and preparing for the series?
Yeah, I would say so. The emphasis was on ourselves more than the opponent, and so that's how we approached the last few months since we started, playing at a high level and playing against higher seeded opponents. I think it was a good test for us going into it. And like I said, everybody approaches it differently, certain teams, but our thing was just to worry about ourselves and be our best version of ourselves, regardless of who we play. So I think that was a message that not only myself, but the players kind of heeded to a year or two. And so for us, that was the focus, plain and simple. Let's play our best basketball, not try to manipulate standings in any way, and whoever we play, we play. And so we knew, obviously, Brooklyn could slip on the last day just as well as we could have or Milwaukee could have. And so there were so many variables that we weren't really concerned about that. And then they did have a game against Cleveland, so we were preparing for both. And so that was our focus more so than the opponent.
Outside of Rob, how's everyone kind of doing physically right now? Is everyone able to practice? I know Al had a back thing a little bit at the end of last week, and Jason and Jaylen had issues in the last couple of weeks. How's everyone looking?
Looking good. Played low minutes against Memphis, and 2 days off before today. So that's why this time to not be in the play-in obviously is crucial going into the postseason. Get your full health back, get time to prepare and work on some things and implement a few new things. And so everybody feels good, other than Rob, like you mentioned, and we'll be fully ready to go on Sunday.
You may coach to the 2 months for March and April. So you get 2 certificates here, or
I heard they combined them. So
yeah.
whatever.
For you to receive the kudos in the second half, and obviously you're not a social media guy, but your name is propped up for potential coach of the year, and people have noticed what you've done. What does that mean to you?
Same thing as I said last time. It means our team is playing well. The guys are playing at a high level, and with the success of the team always comes the individual accolades, as you've seen with Jason. That's another thing. Jason not getting coach or player of the month was odd to me that he got it 3 weeks out of the month player of the week. So, but the accolades that come individually are obviously a result of the success our team is having. And so we played, as I mentioned, really good basketball for the last few months. And so those things come with it, and more so than any individual result. I'm worried about the playoffs and the next thing coming up. And so add the plaque to the rest, I guess, and keep it moving.
You have a Zoom question, Coach, from John Corrales.
Hey, Ime, the schedule has a couple of days off after game 1, a couple of days off after game 2. It's really spread out, which I know things get spread out around this time, but what does that allow you to do? Does that change any of the preparation? Does that benefit any of you guys? Does it benefit one team over the other?
Say the rest is always a good thing. Obviously, preparation and adjustments, you have more time in between, but that's a game by game basis and how the series is going. So whether you have a day or 2 days in between, you're always going to tweak a few things, look at what you could have done better. And at the same time, if you're doing what you need to, just have the rest time and practice time for the guys. And so there's a benefit in the first round. We know it gets tighter after this, day-to-day games or every other day off. And so at this point of the season, I think it's always welcomed by both teams. I'm not sure if it favors anybody else, unless you have some injury aspects. But for the most part, like I said, we feel good going into Sunday.
Thank you, Coach. Wrapping up right there.
Thank you, guys.